Hi guys, this is going to be part 9 of this how to install central heating series. I've got just 2 radiators left to put the fittings, the valves and vent plugs and things on. I thought I'd just show you this small one and what the problems are and what tools you need to fit the valves, etc. Hopefully you can see this clearly enough. It's quite bright out here in the sun and the screen's quite hard to see, but hopefully you can see how rough the end of this is, and that's one of the end caps here. You can see it's got an O-ring on it, but I wouldn't trust this rough paint to seal properly against this O-ring. So what I've done on all of the radiators is, let me just turn this screen over so I can see what you're seeing. Yeah, all I've done is taken the end of a knife and used the non-sharp bit just to scrape off the paint. If you get it just at the right angle, as you can see there, the paint will just come off. What you mustn't do is score the steel of the radiator, because that will be very hard to then get the O-ring to seal against. So you're just scraping off that rough paint just to leave a nice smooth finish. And I think that way we can guarantee that that's going to secure, seal properly with the plugs. Now, weirdly, I'll show you the other end now, but this is the first one I've seen that's actually been painted properly. Let me just move this around. Yeah, hopefully you can now see what I'm looking at. But that surface is perfectly smooth, and ideally that's what you want. You want the steel to be protected by the paint, but you need it to be smooth to make a decent seal. So it's a shame they weren't all like that, but that is the first one that I've been able to leave alone out of, what did we have, I think 11 or 12 radiators. I've still got one left to do, but I'm suspecting it will be rough like all the other ones. Anyway, let me just pull this back out a bit. So what we've got is one of the smaller radiators, and we are just going to fit. Find the table. Are we zoomed out? No, not quite. Okay. So what we're going to be fitting today is one of the Drayton TRV4s. You'll remember in one of the last videos I mentioned that I'd bought the straight through ones rather than this angled one, and we had to go back and exchange some, mainly because we just didn't have the space for a straight one either end of the radiator. The fit to the walls was quite tight in some places, so we swapped that. We're obviously going to fit a lock shield to the other end. We've got 2 seals for the top, that's the vent one, and the tools that we've got for this. You just need some PTFE tape, a 5/8 spanner, adjustable spanner. I've got some of the Wickes jointing compound. It's a silicon based sealant that doesn't fully harden. It's the same as, similar to the Fernox LTX, except the Fernox one is RAS approved, so you can use it on connections and pipes to drinking water, that sort of thing, where this one you can't. But I'm only using it here on the central heating, so that's not a concern. And the other thing I found on eBay was this very hard plastic rad wrench. Just allows you to grab hold of the valve as you're doing up the various compression fittings without doing any damage to the body, because it's plastic. So first thing we needed to do is just to flush it out, and I'm not sure if the hose is on, so bear with me. Yeah, so what we're doing here is we are just leaving the bottom bungs in at either end, just here. They're just plastic bungs that are put in after manufacture, and we are just going to sling a hose in the top. Nothing special, just the normal hose spray, and we're going to fill the radiator up and then pull the bungs out either end. And if you're lucky, you'll find your hose pipe end is the exact same fitting or the exact same size as the holes, and you can just leave it there. You'll notice it will drip out at the bottom there, but it's not a concern. It will quickly fill up and then start coming out of the other end, and then all I do is pull out both ends and let it flush through. You can do that a couple of times if you wish, and it's also going to be flushed out a few times when the system's actually fitted. Right, so we've got the water coming out of the other end now. I'm just going to leave the hose on for a second. Right, and that's just draining out both ends. Just going to take the hose off now. It's gone, and we'll just let that empty out, and then you can just rock the rad back. Quite a lot of white stuff came out of this one. Again, that's not happened on any of the others. So I'm actually going to, I don't know whether you saw it on camera or not, but I'm actually just going to reflush this one out. Don't know whether you saw it or not. It looked like a milky fluid coming out. So there's obviously some residue in that radiator. So we'll give it another flush through. You may remember from one of the other videos that I actually flushed a rad through into a container, and it was full of particles that were attracted to a magnet, so obviously steel and bits and pieces left over from the manufacturing process. Right, that's nearly full up again. There we go. I'm just going to pull the caps off again. And the hose off. Hopefully that will run clear this time. Just rock this over again. Right, well that's that. I'm just going to give this a wipe over, get most of the moisture out of the way. Okay, I'm just going to zoom back for you. You can see what stand I've got this on. It's actually a stand we use in the TV trade. We can prop up plasma and LCD TVs, certainly the larger ones that can't be laid flat down when we're working on them, but you might be able to use perhaps a Black & Decker workmate, that sort of thing, to hold the rad in place. I just find it a lot easier and a lot less tiring on the back to get it up at a height that I am happy working at. So see if we can get that there. There we go. So the next thing I'm going to do is just fit these caps in the end. Now on this particular one we can have the TRV4 on the left and the lock shield on the right, and that means that we should have the vent valve, where are we? There we go, that needs to be on the right hand side, basically the opposite end to where you are having the thermostatic valve. And we can just nip that up. Let's make sure I'm getting this for you. Just nip this up with the adjustable spanner. Remember, this is an O-ring seal, so you do not need to be over tightening that. And if we just pop round to the other end, same here, an O-ring fitting, and just needs to be nipped up like so. You may find when you're doing these up, as you take the spanner off, they've got a tendency just to move back a fraction because of the O-ring. You know, if that happens, just you can moisten the O-ring and you'll find that that will lock up without turning back a fraction. Okay, so next thing to do, if we can position the camera, is to fit the God, this is hard, I can't see the screen. Oh dear. Right, let's try that so I can see this screen. And typically it's clouding over now, so this may be a short video. Okay, so this contains the, where are we, the control valve. It's got a temporary cap on the top there, and then you've got the actual thermostatic head. We don't need that at this stage, that's not fitted. Now when you get these, you'll find that the tail, which I think is the correct term, has the compression fitting on it. That doesn't actually need to be on there, it actually needs to be on the bottom of the valve. So we'll just pop that over there loosely, and what we're doing now is that's going in the radiator like that. Oh, grief, this camera. So we need some PTFE tape on here. The tape needs to be wrapped around clockwise, and let me just show you this. The way to wrap it round is to have the tape, I'm just going to cut that off so we've got a straight edge. What would do if we had a knife, which is the other side. Okay, you can just pull this off, but it leaves quite a ragged edge, so just run the knife over it. You need to wrap it round with the tape coming off the bottom of the reel and towards you. So grab the fitting. Again, I really can't see whether this is being shown properly on the screen. I wish I had somebody else here to film this. So we are now going around the fitting in a clockwise direction, and we're going 15 turns. Oops. Alright, that's 15. Just going to pop that back on there. Give it a straight finish, ready for the next time we need that tape. If you don't do that, it just gets all straggly ended and just annoys me. And we're just going to finish that off there and just smooth it around. If you've got anything coming over the threads, just wipe that away and make sure there's absolutely nothing going on in this area. You can see the metal's clear, so that shouldn't be a problem. Right, something else I've been doing, it's not required but you can do this. I've just been taking a little tiny bit of this silicone sealant and just applying it around the fitting in the same direction as the tape's been wound. It's just a added guarantee, I think, of getting it absolutely perfectly sealed. Right, so I'm going to move the camera around to this end. See if we can get this in view for you. Oh right, I think I bent the screen so far over, the image was reversed, no wonder I was having trouble. So all we need to do now is carefully pop that in, and you'd think it would be quite tight with the 15 wraps of PTFE tape, but you can probably actually get it most of the way in by hand, but it's easier with a 5/8 spanner. And just gently spin that round. You'll find it will nip up. You do not need to over tighten this. That's it. And I then just wipe away any excess silicone like that. I'll just move this camera back to the table. So the next thing is we need to fit the valve on the end of the rad, just with that compression fitting. Okay, now whilst you don't need any PTFE tape to seal a compression fitting, it's a good idea to use it just as a little bit of a lubricant, so when you do the joint up, see if I can get this on camera. So when you're doing this joint up, the silicone acts as a lubricant and you can get a nice smooth locking up of the compression fitting. So I've just been putting 3 or 4 turns round there. Just trim that off. Like that. Again, absolutely crucial that you don't get any of this in the valve. So just make sure that none is overlapping and is at risk of going down there. Now, something to bear in mind, the 15, just spin the screen around to it behind the camera. This 15mm 90 TRV4 is bi-directional. You can see the arrows on here, which means the flow can either go that way or the flow can go that way. On the straight through ones, so the fitting is there and straight through, the arrow points one way only. Okay, now it doesn't matter if it's on the feed, hot feed, or the cooler return on the other side of the radiator, but on the straight through ones the arrow is pointing in the direction of the water flow. Okay, so you've got to get that right. On these it doesn't actually matter. A couple of points to note on these. You can buy a small plastic tool to adjust, very much like you would adjust the lock shield to balance the system. You can actually leave the lock shield fully open and get a tool that slots around here, and you adjust the valve here before putting the cap on. I suspect in my case I'll probably leave the settings of this alone and just balance it on the lock shield. So let's move back to the end. Just make sure we've got this on camera. There we go. So this time all we need is the adjustable wrench and the spanner. You may find that that's locked solid on some tails. If that's the case, just get the adjustable spanners on it and twist it, and it'll come free. Okay, so just pop that on. Get it up by hand. Check the camera, it's still on the camera. Make sure you're pushing this in and right up against the olive when you're doing this. So that's linked up. So now we've got to hold the body and do that up. Now, a little tip: don't try and tighten this up with this around the other way, so you're pulling up on the spanner. Don't be doing it that way, because all you'll do is you'll be lifting up the radiator off the floor, and it's much harder to do. Put the spanner on, put that on the body, and actually push down on both and nip it up. Make sure the spanner's adjusted correctly, because you can round this off slightly. So pop it on, wiggle it around, make sure it's on there firmly, and plastic wrench in place and nip it up. Just check the alignment of the valve, and that's it. That's ready for that end. So we'll go over, actually we'll just prepare the other end. You'll notice on this that you have an adjustable head with a slot in there, so that's just to allow you to balance the system. Once you've balanced it, you can remove that and fit that, and nobody can then tamper with the setting without going to some degree of trouble at least. Okay, so we're just going to remove the tail, and this is pretty much the same as the other end. We just need to wrap the tape around. Okay, 15 turns. If you can, start one thread back. Yes, I've lost count. Let's do that. I'm going to rip that off as it's the last one we're doing today. Just fold it around again, check that you haven't got it going into the bore. Just wipe it tight. Same thing again, just going to use a little bit of the silicone there. Not too much, there's no point in wasting it. It's just a sort of fail-safe, and probably isn't required, and it'll be interesting to see what feedback we get on doing it this way, if any. Okay, so that's all done. Let's just wipe that off. So, right, we'll go round to the other end. Just make sure that's on the camera. Get out of the way. Right, again, just needs to be gently screwed in, and then use the 5/8 spanner again. Again, this goes in very easily, and then it will start to nip up. Again, do not over tighten this. Smear the silicone around and off, and now we're ready to fit the valve. Again, compression fitting, a few turns of tape around there just to help it all lock up without too much trouble. It's getting windy now, so I don't know whether I'm going to be able to do this on camera. Yeah, let's it's not perfect. Now you can see what happens now. I've got the tape coming off the reel the wrong way, and every time I turn it, more tape comes off of the reel. You can see that I've got it the wrong way. The tape should be coming off the reel towards me from the bottom. Just going to rip that off. Okay, so once again, just making sure that there's none going into the bore, pushing it and holding it in while we just nip this up. And then same as before, but this time we'll need the smaller end of the plastic spanner. Don't know whether I'm going to be able to do this behind the camera. Take that lid off, that cap off. There we go. Just making sure that valve is in the right location, and we can pop the cap on. And that is pretty much that. That's now ready to go and be hung on the wall, ready to take the pipes going into the ends. Right, there's just a couple of things I wanted to mention. A chap on YouTube watched my last video, which was the radiator being fitted in the hallway, and made a comment that one of the main sockets was immediately below the right hand lock shield. Now of course, when you're bleeding the radiator, or you've got to drain it down, or indeed even if you've got a leak, you don't really want water coming into contact with mains sockets. I should have mentioned it, but I didn't. Obviously that needs relocating, and we will be doing that when we have the floor up, over the next few weeks. So any main socket should not be directly under the radiator or the valves. I don't know what the legal side of that is. Obviously you have to have a qualified electrician to do any work on main sockets these days, but I don't know if there's any rules and regulations stating that main sockets should not be within so many centimetres of a plumbing fitting. It's an interesting point, and something I'll try and find out. But yes, if anyone else spotted that, the the socket will be moved at some point when we're having the floor replaced. If you remember, also there was another socket on the left of that radiator, but that is for the old Economy 7 storage heaters that have obviously gone, and that will just be disconnected and removed. A couple of other points I wanted to say. Anyone that's come in on any of these videos late and has not watched them from the beginning, please watch them from the beginning, because there's safety warnings and things like that on the first or second video. And just bear in mind, I'm a TV engineer. I am not a qualified electrician, nor am I a qualified plumber. However, I have been doing my own electrics and plumbing for over 30 years now. Of course, there are now restrictions on what you can legally do yourself, and you would have to have a gas safe, a registered engineer to do the gas work and commission the boiler, and you must also have a qualified electrician, I think it's Part P, registered electrician, to do any of the wiring that's required. So just bear that in mind. I am competent to do the amount that I'm doing. If you're in doubt, get a professional in, especially with electrics and gas. It's just don't take the risk. If you're not sure what you're doing, call the professionals in. So really this is all my take on how to install central heating myself, and it's up to you whether you copy or use any of the ideas and things that I'm doing. Okay, so if you're not competent, don't do it. I can't keep repeating that enough. I just thought that, you know, video number 9, we should probably reiterate the safety side of things again. Okay, and if you're a professional out there and you've seen a mistake that I've made or something I said that is wrong, you know, please let me know. I'm researching this as we go, reading up on everything so we can comply as far as possible with the rules and regulations. But yeah, comment on the videos by all means, and let me know. Further update, I have managed to run the first bit of pipe work around in the loft. It's the hot water supply to the radiators. I've managed to run it around the loft space on 3 sides. I went into the 4th side to start work and discovered we had a swarm of wasps in there, so I quickly cancelled that, and we've got to go and get some wasp killer tomorrow, so I can then do the 4th side of the pipe work. I managed to get the pipe work pretty level and had to drill through some joists to keep the pipe as level as possible. Having done a few of them and realised how hard that is, I'm going to actually cut and notch the remaining 5 or 6 joists, depending on your situation. It might be a hell of a lot easier. The joists that we have are huge, so there's no issue cutting into them by a couple of inches. The other thing I also found is it's a sod to try and feed the 22mm plastic pipe that's coiled up around on your own. So, you know, if you can get some help for somebody else just to help unravel the reel of 22mm plastic, you're going to find it a lot easier. I clipped it all to the joists, and then we made the connections to the 3 radiators on the first floor. The ends of the 22mm plastic, I just used 22 to 15 90-degree elbows. That's gone straight into the rad. The other rads are obviously just teed 22, 22, 15. I also found that the 22 plastic was quite happy to bend around the corners of the loft space, and I have only used a 90-degree elbow in the wasp section, as we should call it, just so I could terminate it there and get the hell out of there. So that last stretch will be done in a few days when we've got rid of the wasps. All pretty straightforward, no particular dramas apart from the heat and the sweating. It wasn't pleasant. My back's killing me, and my knees especially. But so yeah, work's progressing. Just wanted to show you that last bit on the second from last radiator, and I'll probably do a video in a few days just to show you what's gone on in the loft, so you get the idea of what's happening there. As usual, thanks for watching the videos. Hope part of it has been useful, and yeah, please comment and make any corrections or suggestions. Be a great help. Thanks guys.